Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Floorball Guru TV. My name is Dave Crawford, and I am the owner and operator of Floorball Guru. Part of this program that we're doing is interviewing people from around the world to learn, grow, and build on our knowledge for the sport. Today, I've got a special guest. He's one of the top floorball referees around the world. He's an amazing guy. His name is Thomas Anderson, and I'm really excited to learn more about officiating within the sport, how things work, and also kind of how we can continue to push that component of the game because officiating is so crucial. When we look at development of the sport, we need to make sure we're developing our officials at the youngest levels and pushing forward. So I'm going to bring on here just a little bit, but welcome to the show, Tom Sanderson. So welcome. How
Thanks,
are you,
Dave.
sir?
Fantastic, fantastic. The summer has really hit Sweden this weekend. So being from the northern, I mean, we're not used to that. So you actually see people, you see them smile, and that gives warmth to the heart, one could say, despite being out of season.
Yes. Yeah, I know. And we're half a world away. I'm in
Yeah.
Washington and you're in Sweden, and we're about the same. Thankfully, summer has come despite COVID and some of the things that are going on that have made some big challenges across the world. And right now in the U.S., we're going through a lot as well. But I do appreciate you taking the time to come on and chat. So for everybody that's watching, tell us a little bit about who you are, a little bit about your experience, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, I'm a Swede, based in Stockholm, the capital of Sweden. Been around floorball since I was like 13, 14 years old. It wasn't my first sport, but grew to love it. Started playing at the age of 13, 14. 1 year later, in Sweden, the clubs on the lower level need to make sure that we have enough officials. So every club needs to have licensed referees. So then the chairman on the club came down to a practice afterwards and asked, hey, do anybody want to be a referee? So I said, hey, I haven't tried that out, so I can't neglect it. So I said yes, and that's where it all started. So I'm will start now after summer my 27th season, and I've been refereeing on the side until I was like 2021 when I quit playing. In Sweden, we have the Super League at the top, then we have Allsvenska and Division 1. In Division 1, I was fairly good, actually. In Allsvenska, I was not good at all. And I would never made it to the Super League and never made it international in any shape or form. But I had a tendency to be quite good in reffing. So when I quit playing, Federation said, great, and now we will not hold you back because you cannot ref and play on the same level. And then it took it from there. It took like 2 to 3 years. Then we had our first final on the women's side, and I've been reffing the Super Leagues ever since. So since 2003. So it's a few seasons in the Super League.
Yeah.
Been on the international level since a couple of years after that, like 06, stuff like that. A few finals in Sweden, 3 World Cups, a lot of international tournaments around the globe, and had a privilege to be in Colorado, Denver, 2016 for the qualifications. And since then, I've been having a contact with the states and the federation, and coaching and helping and visiting every now and then to see how you have it over there, right?
Yeah, and that's how we met, because we met at the Golden Gate Cup in the fall or in the summer last year, and that was it was wonderful to see you and to see you interacting with everybody and bring that passion. And I think that's the really fun thing about, as you said, playing level wise, you wouldn't have gotten to the highest levels, but you were still able to connect with floorball at such a high level and be there because of that pivot. And I think that a lot of people forget that the officiating is such a great pathway to continue a passion, and it's so needed. As you said with your club, they were coming down to the younger levels to say, who needs the ref, because we need refs. So on that note, how are younger officials let's say today, how are younger officials found? How are they trained? What's the process in Sweden for developing officials?
So in Sweden, the national federation is responsible for the three highest leagues. So it's Super League, Division 1, and Allsvenskan. And below that, it's on a municipal level. So, for example, Stockholm is responsible for their area. So they're having the senior level up to Division 2 and all of the youngsters. It's like, bear with me now, 30,000 games a season in Stockholm area alone. So there's a lot of games going on. Our season is from September to April. So it's a winter sport over here. And everybody gets nominated from their club, or they go to the federation and they pay a fee to be giving the training and giving the gear. And then it's more or less from there. There is mentoring system as well. So you have like observers or game officials that could come to a game to watch the younger referees and coach them in the right direction, taking the small errors away and coaching them into being both mentally stronger, because being a referee could be difficult. There are parents, there are players that is not behaving towards the officials or other teammates or other players, and that could actually hurt a lot. And given like a decade back, I know that only in Stockholm area they educated like 100 referees a year. After one season, only 10% remained, and that was for the environment alone. That it was too difficult. They got yelled at, they got cursed at, they got not being treated as they should be, and they say it's not worth it. I will not continue. So that's worked a lot regarding the atmosphere around it, and especially the younger ones. They have a community. Of course, social media is supporting a lot, and they have built a lot of great things over there. So that's the foundation. We have education on a yearly basis before the season, and many areas also have like a mid-season gathering where you can meet, watch a game, talk, and interact.
That's great. And on one hand, it's nice to know, and on the other hand, it's sad to know that officials around the world are all going through the same stuff, and that people are not getting into that profession because of the atmosphere. I was an official within soccer, football, and even did some baseball, and I loved it and I hated it at the same time. And I see it's gotten worse as far as how people are treating the officials, how they're going after officials, and some of the other stuff. And I was one of the things I was drawn to within floorball is, I think there's a culture of getting after the officials, from the fans to the bench to the players. I found it a little bit different when I went into floorball, especially at the national or international level. And I remember being on the bench at the last U19 women's championship, and something was going on. My coach, assistant coach, Pat, he started to kind of chirp at the official like he would in hockey, and I had to kind of look over him and say, "Hey, you can't do that here. You'll get a penalty a little bit." So I like the atmosphere of, we can disagree, but we need to kind of keep in check, and I like that within floorball. And again, protecting your young officials is so crucial to keeping them in the game for the long term, because they're without officials, you can't have games. So it's just so crucial. So how are or I guess another question I have is, and for anybody that's watching, if you've got a question, throw it into our Facebook and we'll be happy to ask those questions. How is it different with, say, like SSL being the top to like a World Cup? What's the level? Is it basically the same? Is it the fans that bring more? Or what is it as far as an official from your standpoint that is different within those, and how do you manage that?
Giving the comparison between the international scene and the Swedish Super League, or?
Yeah.
So I mean, in Sweden, you're a known figure, right? So I've been around so long, so people know me. They know my my standpoint, they know my brand, and they know more or less what they're going to get, right? And me and my partner, we have worked really, really hard with the brand and able to actually build on that also to leverage and support friends and colleagues around the globe. I mean, we have ref colleagues all over that we would like to help build on their strength, help them with the weaknesses, and able to spread the sport globally, because it's the best sport ever, right?
Yeah.
In Sweden, the communication is key. Our way of managing a game is a lot through communication, a lot of proactive communication. We also open up for a question where you can have a concrete question and you will get an answer, and then you can decide, okay, agree to disagree, we can take it later. And also, I mean, we have around 1,000 spectators per game in Sweden, roughly. And I mean, for us, it's the normal league, right? As mentioned to you earlier, also, I mean, reffing floorball is my hobby. I mean, I have a 9 to 5. I work at Ericsson. I try to make sure that the world gets 5G eventually. So it's good times for that already now, of course. But reffing is a hobby of mine, which is a fantastic thing to do, because it gives me a lot of energy, which I can bring back to the 9 to 5, right? From the international perspective, taking the communication, it's a bit different, because for many, not for you guys, of course, since I'm native English, but for others like us or other countries, doesn't have it natural in that sense, which means that communication is more difficult. Maybe they cannot ask the question that they want to do, or it could be another thing where they actually have. I mean, they're playing for their national team, which means that I cannot behave in a certain way, or I don't. We have a culture in the team that we don't ask questions to the refs. Only the team captain does, or the coach. So I would say that from the international way, it's less communication. It's more also being a Swede in floorball. Floorball was invented in Sweden. We have quite good players. We have a track record that shows that we have been on top for long, and that also gives some kind of respect around the world. So the only thing that you say if you're a Swede, they were more like, okay, can I have your autograph maybe? So it's actually quite easy to be a referee giving that, but of course you have to perform on the pitch as well, which we try to do then. So it's different to that sense, but it's also fantastic that you can give your enthusiasm and your commitment that will show how people are loving floorball in Singapore or Slovakia or Korea or the US or wherever, right? So I mean, it's fantastic. Everybody loves floorball, and it's so different. I actually played floorball once in Uganda, in Africa. Met the Ugandan national team on an outdoor pitch of grass where they played. But they still love floorball, right? So it's maybe not the same as we used to it, or we have it back home, but it's according to their standards fantastic, and they play it and they love it. Yeah. It's great.
Yeah, that is the beautiful thing about the community and the culture. Everyone brings a little bit to what they have and build from there. So that part's really fun. Can you talk about what's your process for preparing to officiate a match? What do you go through to, game day? What's your process to get ready for that game?
Giving the game day, it's a bit different if you're on a tournament or if you have like a game in the Super League. But usually we try to get to the arena 2 to 1.5 hours before the game, and then depending on what it is before, we start preparing a couple of days before, getting into contact. We do a lot of analysis, so we look over the last couple of games. Have we had these teams before? What can we draw from that? Is it something that we can actually consider for this game from the last game, stuff like that? And then we make focus bullets for this particular game. What do we think is key? How will the game be played? What's the importance of the game? Who is playing? things to take in consideration more or less. Then 2 to 1.5 hours before, we are well fed, we're well rested, and we enter the arena. We say hello to the people we meet, and then we go to the locker room to change. Then we always play football. So we do the warm up with the soccer ball then, and then we play either 2-touch or penalty shots. And the thing is that the guy who's losing is actually carrying the ball to the next game. So Richard, if you're watching, keep track of both of the balls, both the national ball and the international ball that he has in possession for next season. So keep them trimmed, keep them pumped, and practice.
Love it.
Also, we play that, and then when we get back, we of course stretch and make sure that we are prepared to enter the arena. The routines is usually that the teams is leaving the arena 15 minutes before face-off. Then we enter the arena to make sure that everything is according to standards. Checking the goal cages, saying hello to the secretary, making sure that all the lines are there that should be there. And then we go back, we listen to the last song. We have our song, which is the last thing that we're looking for. That could be a pop quiz for the end, maybe. But and then we go in and we do the introduction routines, and then we do the face-off.
Cool. So, how is the fitness preparation for floorball officiating similar or different from other sports that you've been a part of, or things like that? What kind of level of fitness are we looking at for officials, especially at the top level?
Well, we're having both rule test and physical test twice a year, or rule test only once a year, but fitness test twice a year. We have the Cooper test, that's one option, or we have the yo-yo test. I don't know how internationally spread that is. It's a variant of the beep test that was introduced some while back then. So we do either of those. So either we have the yo-yo test, but then you need to finish level 16.8, or it's a Cooper test where you have to run 3 kilometers in less than 13 minutes, I believe it is. Okay. So it's not the toughest physical tests there is. I know that soccer in Sweden has tougher ones, but it's nothing that you just can relax over the summer and you go back and just ace it, right? So you need to practice, you need to push into it, and of course us officials or referees in Swedish Super League, we're having this as a part-time hobby. Our colleagues in ice hockey or soccer, they are employed referees from the federation. So it's another situation, of course, for them.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, and I can only imagine. I imagine how gassed I am. I can only imagine how gassed you get trying to keep up with some of the guys in the SSL and just watching the games. It's one thing to watch them on YouTube and watch the stream and see how fast the game is. It is a totally different thing when you're actually there. And I can only imagine for you being on the ground, how much faster everything, although I imagine you're used to it now, but that it just, make sure you're in shape for sure. I can only imagine that being very crucial. So shifting a little bit, when we look at a lot of people that are not at the same level of development, how do we, or what are some tips you would give to somebody starting out as far as things to focus on? I mean, we've got a big rule book in the sport, so when you're looking at how do I learn and grow, what are some of the early things to kind of focus on?
Make sure you have your ground rules set. Know your rule book. Be physically prepared. That's the starting point. And then you will grow into it, right? So for me, then I started at the age of 14, and I can honestly say that starting as a referee, that was one of the major single points in my life that actually changed me to the person who I am today. Standing on the pitch with a whistle in my mouth, taking my own decisions, and learning and evolving and taking a lot of the leadership practices that you can use in your daily work or in your family situation. Gives a lot of energy and knowledge. It makes a stable ground to stand on, because you know that you can take a lot and you know a lot. So you have to do the mice, you have to do the games, and then of course it's always good to go back and to reflect and see, okay, what did I do good, what can I do better. If you have some partner to talk to, that's good. If you have a federation to talk to, that's even better. But that's the only thing, right? So for me, my tip is do the games, stay in it, don't quit too soon. Of course, I had games where I seriously doubted, should I continue with this? Is it really worth it? It's ups and downs, but giving the holistic view and the long term, it's fantastic and so worth it. And as you mentioned earlier, that reffing is another way of connecting to the sport while quitting playing, for example. I'm 42 today, and I can continue as long as I would like to, as long as I'm physically fit, and that's up to me, right? So the oldest referee in the Super League is 50 plus, and that can only say that we can also extend the career in while playing. You can come to a certain level, but after like 30 plus, then physics starts kicking in. Maybe it's more difficult, but as a referee, you can actually extend your career giving that as well. So that's just a tip.
A good tip. Well, we actually have a question here, so I'll throw it up here. From I would say Sherry Josie. A good question. How can I better control on a men's game? Especially difficult to manage. I don't have a stable referee partner. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's two. For me, the stable partner thing, it's both a good thing and a challenge, of course. The best thing would be to have a stable partner and then do other games with others, because when you mix and match, you will learn a lot of things from different referees. So look at their strengths, look at their weaknesses, try things out and learn and evolve. That's a good thing. But of course, a stable partner is also usually mandatory for climbing the systems, getting to the higher leagues. Then you need to have your partner. So I mean, in Singapore, of course, we have Rello. I'm sure you know him. So reach out to him and maybe he can help you out. Or if you have a Facebook group for that, also somebody want to be my partner for the next season or stuff like that. That usually turns out for the best, I would say. To have the control, the things is to take a decision and stand by your decision. That's key. If you start to be hesitant and say maybe I did something wrong, yes, everybody does mistakes. I do mistakes on a gamely basis, I would say. So the best thing would be to try to avoid making those mistakes in crucial areas. It could be a hit in that was pointed in the wrong direction or stuff like that. That happens all the time. And then you can only say at the end, so maybe I was wrong, but I saw it from this angle. If there was a touch, I'm sorry I didn't see it. I will try to see it better next time. And then you show your community side and also communicated side that, okay, I took a decision, I stand by it. If I saw it from the other end, I might have called another shot, but that's how it is. Maybe next time.
Yeah, and that leads to a great point. And when I'm working with officials, and in my day job, I work at a university in recreation, and so we do a lot of rec-based sports. So I work with officials, training officials on just about any sport, and that's one of the biggest things that I tell them is be confident in your call. If it's egregious and somebody else, your partner, sees it, then have that communication, but really have confidence in that call and continue to stick forward. Obviously trying to make those right calls, but when you start waffling back and forth, then the players start losing confidence in you, and that can really start to break down a number of other different things throughout the game. So that's a really very crucial component. I love hearing other people say that, because I try to get, hey guys, see, this person said it. I more people we
And
say
we
it,
didn't
the better.
rehearse this at all, so this was actually natural then. So I'm just saying that you're doing the right stuff.
Exactly. None of that stuff. But no, that actually is another interesting point that I wanted to ask about is within floorball, do you have, so when you have a season, you work with one partner, or are you mixing and matching each week, or how does that really work for you?
I would say it differs between the countries. In Sweden, we have a stable partner. We have also last season we have tried out to ref with another partner. So we took two couples and mixed them up. So I had one game with one, and then the next game with the next. But it was only for two games, and to try it out. The reason behind that is that as referees, then since we're tied together, we're also could be bounded by each other, right? So if I'm out traveling, then Richard is out of scope. Or if Richard gets injured, that hasn't happened, but we have another partner here in Sweden. He had a knee surgery, so he was out for a year. Then his colleague is on the bench for a year, more or less, which is not efficient in all of those means. To compare, for example, with Finland, I know that they have another way of thinking about it. So they are having, if I'm not misunderstood, like every fifth or sixth game, something like that, they have with another partner. So it depends on the federations and how they want to play it. Also, availability of referees. Do you have too many? Do you have too less? And how to jiggle around with that and able to utilize the best referees as much as possible.
Interesting. Very interesting. Well, those are all the questions that I had. Unless anybody else has got to chime in on Facebook, I want to shout out for, if you follow Instagram at all, please go on and follow Thomas D. Anderson. Follow his journey. It's fascinating to watch where he is in the world, because you never know sometimes. And then also make sure to be supporting and cheering on him and the other officials in events that are coming up. What's the next big event for you? Is it the Worlds in December, or assuming we can do them? But
let's hope. No, so in Sweden now they're starting actually up for sports in general now in June timeframe. So soccer league is starting and stuff like that. So we're seeing positive things regarding that the season will kick off as planned in end of September. So of course that's the big thing, and then for the season on the international scene, of course, World Cup in Helsinki in December is one big goal which we're aiming for, and hope to have the possibility of nominating us for the third sequential World Cup for us. So that would be great. And Finland is a fantastic country. They love and breathe floorball. So the spectators are crazy in the best way possible. So it's usually just worth the money to get into the arena to watch all of the fans, I would say.
Yeah, having been I've been fortunate to go to coach at a U19 men's. I was at the U19 or women U19 men's last year, and I would love to get to a men's and women's final, or even just get in there, just because of the atmosphere that's created, which I think we figure out how to bottle that up and blow that up around the country, around the world. The sport is going to be on a bigger stage, and hopefully we were hoping next year with the World Games being in the US that we would get to capture some of that, and that's going to be put back till 2022. So hopefully we'll get to see everything, all the best in the world coming, and really get to showcase everything that's going on. Oop, I think I've got one more. Somebody popped in here with a question for Jeff Morris. What are tips to regain control of the game that's gotten wild? Oh, that's an interesting one. Yes. Go for it.
I would say that do something unexpected. if everybody's looking in the left corner and thinking what the hell is going over there, if you do something in the right corner, it could be just stop the game. You could start singing. You can approach the team captains and have a actual face-to-face, starting. Okay, do we really want to have this? But I think you need to make something that breaks the curve. That's why I said do something unexpected, because that's actually also a good tip when you see a team captain approaches you or a player approaching you, and you can see that he is or she is pissed.
Yeah.
And if you just say something like, "I like your pass in the last sequence," or isn't it really hot in here? Yeah. So if you say something that is not expected, then they usually get off when it comes to of their intentions, and that hopefully makes the possibility for you to bridge over to have some concrete and good conversation regarding, okay, where would we like to be mutually with this? We don't want to have this wild situation, right? So how do we support each other and cooperate and able to go to the right and actually make this a better situation? Yeah. So do something unexpected, and then it's up to you to decide on what to do.
Well, and the hope too with that is we're managing the game well enough we can avoid those situations. And so, so we obviously having the open communication, as you talked with earlier, between the players on the field, having that understanding and that respect for you, and knowing we want to make the right calls, we're going to miss them, but hopefully giving a little bit of latitude when we do miss it. And also I like to, as quickly as possible, diffuse the situation, but then get the game going back as quickly as possible. I think getting people into that mode of the game is moving, let's keep going, helps avoid that as well. In a number of different sports, or leading up to it, a lot of times you can tell if something is starting to get a little heightened, maybe it's getting a little more aggressive. So now we need to either be a lot more authoritative in how we blow the whistle, the communication that we're using, and the presence that we're having, so that everybody knows that we are there and have that power, not power, but just control. And I've seen you do that a number of times. If you watch the games, you can see games get up there, and you can see that you have control of that in that moment. That's very crucial. And I know a lot of other officials I've watched do that as well. And that's a big part of that to avoid it. But things do happen. So I love start singing, say something different. Like, I love that, because that would, if I was coming at somebody and you said that, I would pause. I'd be like, wait, what? And that would help me to hopefully think and calm down a little bit and be a little bit rational and those kinds of things. So I love that. So great question, Jeff. Thank you. So again, I really appreciate you coming on. Again, Instagram, make sure to head over, give him a like, give him a follow, comment, follow what he's doing. He's doing some great things, as are all the officials that are out there trying. We get on officials a lot because we want them, we expect them to be perfect, but they're human, and obviously they want to be perfect in every game, but they are human. We need to be able to support them as best as we can, because we need officials desperately in this game to continue to grow the way that we're doing. So please, next time you go out, be kind to the official. keep them honest, but be kind. So anything you want to throw in there as a final statement?
No, believe it or not, I mean, as referees, we're actually human beings as well. We wake up in the morning, we have emotions, and we all do it for the love of the game. So giving that, if you just need to ask a question, do it in a polite way, and I promise you that you will get the response. And if then again the emotions get too high, take a deep breath, wait a few seconds, and then try to be more concrete in what you would like to have. And then of course the referee should try to be on the same level and having a communicative side as well, making sure that we all understand each other. And there's usually something behind those emotions from the player side. Could be one-sided, could be objective as well. But nevertheless, there's something there.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time. I'm glad. I hope it's not too late over there. It's probably closer to 7:30, so that's a perfect time day on a Sunday. So I appreciate you taking the time. I hope whoever's watching, you learned something from this. You can take something home from it, and as a sport, as a collective, we can continue to grow. And maybe this got you excited to jump in and start officiating. So if you need to, feel free to again follow Thomas on his Instagram, send him a message, ask him questions. I know if you ask him a question, he will answer it. So please feel free to reach out, and that's how we learn and grow. So, and also if you're wherever you're at, if you're looking for more information about the sport of floorball, how to grow, how to get started, how to anything, please feel free to check out my website, www.floorballguru.com. And thank you all for watching, and have a wonderful day.